"You're a miserable 45-year-old. Get out of my house," she screamed. I just looked at her and burst out laughing. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just sat there and smiled. So she called the police. And when they arrived and saw the deed with my name on it, everything changed. My name is Anthony. I'm 45 years old. And this is the story of how my younger brother's wife tried to kick me out of my own house. But instead, I kicked her out of mine. I never wanted trouble. After our parents passed away, I just wanted peace. The house they left behind was full of memories. Mom's favorite rocking chair, Dad's old books, the smell of cinnamon toast on Sunday mornings. It was the home I grew up in, the only place that ever truly felt like mine. But I didn't want to live in it alone. So when my little brother James called me one night and said, "Big bro, things are rough. Can I move in for a while?" I said yes, without even thinking. James was family. I loved him, and he had always looked up to me. When we were kids, he used to follow me around like a shadow. I helped him with homework, taught him how to ride a bike, even shared my snacks with him when he cried. So of course, I opened my doors. He moved in the next week. I told him no rent, just help me keep the place clean. At first, it was great. We watched TV together in the evenings. He cooked now and then. We even played board games like we used to when we were kids. But then everything changed. James met Tina. The moment I saw her, I felt a chill in the room. She walked in with long red nails, a shiny purse, and eyes that looked me up and down like I was something she found in a garbage bin. "This is the house, James?" she asked, looking around with a wrinkled nose. "It's old." James laughed nervously. "It's not fancy, but it's home." I stayed polite. I said, "Welcome, Tina. Make yourself comfortable." She didn't smile back. The first few days she was quiet, but once she moved in fully, the comments started. Small things at first. "Why does the couch smell like old socks? Do you always eat that much rice? You don't go out much, do you?" I just smiled. I'm used to being quiet. I don't like fights. But then she started talking to James about me loudly, on purpose. "James, your brother is always here. We need privacy. Why doesn't he go stay at a friend's place sometimes? We're newlyweds, not babysitters."
I pretended not to hear, but I heard everything. Still, I didn't say a word. I just did my chores, cleaned my room, stayed out of their way. But it wasn't enough. One day, Tina slammed the bathroom door and shouted, "Why is he still here?" James tried to calm her down. "It's his house, Tina, technically." That was the first time she heard that part. "What do you mean, his house?" James looked nervous. "Well, after Mom and Dad passed, Anthony inherited it, but he let me live here. No rent." Tina's face turned red. She didn't say anything then, but I knew that look. That was the look of a woman who didn't like being under someone else's roof. After that day, she got worse. Suddenly, I wasn't just annoying, I was the enemy. She told her friends lies. She'd sit on the phone in the kitchen saying, "Can you believe he just sits around like a sad old man all day? No job, no wife, no kids. It's pathetic." I had a job. I worked from home. I just didn't brag about it. She didn't care. To her, I was just in the way. One evening, I was quietly reading a book on the porch when Tina came out and said, "Do you think maybe you could, I don't know, spend the night somewhere else this weekend? Me and James want the house to ourselves." I looked at her and said calmly, "This is my home. I'm not going anywhere." She rolled her eyes and muttered, "You're so selfish." The next day, she accidentally threw away my favorite coffee mug, the one Mom gave me. I found it shattered in the trash. I still didn't yell. I didn't want to upset James, but inside, something was starting to boil, a slow heat rising in my chest. Not because of the mug, not even because of the insults, but because she looked at me like I was nothing, like I was less than her. And one thing I've learned in my 45 years is this: the quietest people often carry the deepest thunder, and my storm was coming.
Things got worse after the mug. I think Tina knew I loved it. Maybe she broke it on purpose. Maybe not, but the look on her face when I saw the pieces in the trash told me everything. She enjoyed my silence. She thought it made me weak. She was wrong. I kept living as normal, woke up early, swept the front porch, paid the bills, mowed the lawn, cleaned the gutters. I did everything like always. But Tina acted like I was some kind of unwanted pest in her palace. She started telling people I was mooching off her and James. Her, like I wasn't the one who owned the very walls she put her fake flower vases on. I still said nothing. Then, one afternoon, I came back from the grocery store with a bag full of things I'd bought for all of us: rice, milk, toothpaste, and she stopped me at the door. She stood there with her arms crossed. "You didn't have to buy that," she said. "You're not the man of the house." I didn't respond. I walked past her, put the food in the kitchen, and went to my room. That night, I heard her on the phone again, laughing loudly with a friend. He's like a ghost that won't leave, always around, always silent. It's creepy. Then, one morning, everything changed. It started like any other day. I got up, made tea, and sat in the living room reading the paper. I wore my favorite sweater, the one Mom knitted before she passed. It had a small hole on the sleeve, but I didn't care. It reminded me of her warmth. Suddenly, Tina stormed in holding her phone, and she was recording. Yes, recording me. "Everyone look at this," she said to the camera. "This old man is sitting in my house, acting like he owns the place." She turned the camera on me. I didn't look up. I sipped my tea slowly. She walked around me like a lion circling a rabbit. "I've had enough of this," she shouted. "You're 45 years old with nothing going on. You're a loser." I smiled. Just a little. She didn't like that. "Why are you smiling? This isn't funny," she screamed. Then she turned off the recording and stood over me. "Get out of my house." I looked up at her, calm, quiet, still holding my cup. "This isn't your house, Tina," I said softly. She blinked. "Excuse me? Are you really still holding on to that fantasy that this dump is yours? You don't own anything." I didn't answer. That made her angrier. "Pack your things, Anthony. You're done here. I'm not putting up with this anymore." I placed the teacup gently on the table. "I'm not going anywhere." Her jaw dropped. "Oh, really? You want to test me?" She grabbed her phone and dialed. She was calling the police. "Hello, yes, I need to report a man refusing to leave my house. He's been living here, and now he's making me feel unsafe." Her voice got all sweet and shaky, like she was the victim. I stood up and went to the kitchen, made another cup of tea. I knew what was coming, and I was ready. After she ended the call, she shouted after me, "The police are on their way. I hope they drag you out in handcuffs." I walked back to the living room, sat down again, and sipped my tea. I texted my brother. "Tima just called the cops on me. You might want to get home soon." James replied, "What? I'm coming right now." About 15 minutes later, I heard sirens. 2 police officers walked up to the porch. Tina ran to the door like she was greeting heroes. "Thank you for coming," she said in a high, fake voice. "He's inside, being aggressive and refusing to leave my house." They stepped in. One of them looked around. The other one looked at me. I stayed seated. The officer asked, "Sir, can you tell me what's going on?" Tina jumped in. "He's been living here for months without permission. He's not paying rent, he's creepy, and we want him out." The officer held up a hand. "Ma'am, please let him speak." I put my cup down, stood up slowly, walked to the drawer near the front door, pulled out a large brown envelope, opened it, took out the house deed, and handed it to the officer. He looked at it. Then his partner looked at it too. The first officer read the name aloud. "Anthony Walker." He turned to me. "That's you?" I nodded. "Yes. I inherited this house from my parents. I've let my brother and his wife live here rent-free." He turned to Tina. Her mouth was open, eyes wide. "Ma'am," the officer said gently, "this house legally belongs to Mr. Walker. He's within his rights to be here." Tina's face turned red like a tomato. That can't be right," she stammered. The second officer looked at her, a bit annoyed now. "Did you know he was the legal owner?" She didn't answer. I looked at her calmly and said, "Next time, Tina, don't try to throw out the man who actually owns the house." She ran upstairs without a word. The officers apologized for the confusion and left. I sat down, picked up my tea again, and took another sip. It was cold now, but it tasted like victory. I sat back down on the couch, holding my now cold cup of tea. The police had just left. Tina had run upstairs without a word, and the house suddenly felt quiet. Too quiet. You see, for weeks I had kept my mouth shut. I let her throw her little insults, give me dirty looks, lie to her friends, and treat me like I was a piece of old furniture that needed to be thrown out. But now she knew. She knew whose name was on the deed. She knew this was my house. But it wasn't over yet. I could hear her footsteps pacing upstairs. Her heels clicked hard on the wooden floor like angry drums. Then I heard her phone ring. She answered it fast. "James, you won't believe what just happened." I couldn't hear his voice, but I could tell she was panicking. "He showed them some paper. I don't know what it was, but the police took his side. They said he owns this place." She paused. You knew and didn't tell me?" She went quiet for a moment, then yelled so loud I didn't need to strain to hear her. "How could you not tell me this is his house? I've been living here like a queen, making plans." More pacing, more angry stomps. I kept sipping my tea. A few minutes later, I heard the door open downstairs. James had come home. He walked in looking sweaty and nervous. "Bro, I'm so sorry." I didn't say anything. I just raised my eyebrows. He scratched the back of his neck. She told me she was going to ask you to give us space. I didn't think she was going to call the police." I leaned back on the couch and looked at him. She tried to embarrass me, James, in my own home. He sat down across from me, his head in his hands. "I messed up. I should have told her the truth from the start." "Yeah," I said quietly. "You should have." Tina stormed downstairs right after that. She had taken off her fancy earrings and kicked off her heels, but her face still had that same angry shine. "James," she snapped, "we need to talk in private." "No," he replied firmly. "We need to talk together, all three of us." She scoffed. "Fine, let's talk." She turned to me, her hands on her hips. "So what? You're just gonna lord this over us now? Make us feel small?" I looked her right in the eyes and said calmly, "Tina, you made yourself small. I didn't do anything to you. You disrespected me. You mocked me. You tried to have me arrested." She blinked, but didn't speak. All while standing inside the house that I own, a house I let you live in without asking for a single coin. James looked away. I could tell he was ashamed. But Tina, she wasn't done. "So what now?" she said. "You're going to kick us out?" I didn't answer. Not yet. Instead, I stood up, walked to the drawer again, and pulled out a second envelope. I placed it on the table between us. "What's that?" James asked. "It's a notice," I said. "You've got 30 days. Tina gasped. "You can't do this. We're married. We just moved in. We don't even have another place yet." I shrugged. "You should have thought about that before you called the cops." She stepped closer, her voice shaking. "You're just bitter because you're alone. You're miserable, Anthony. That's why you're doing this." I didn't shout. I didn't argue. I just looked at her and said, "No. I'm finally standing up for myself. That's all." James didn't say anything. His eyes were glued to the notice. "I don't want to leave. This house, this was home." I softened just a little. "It was home, James, for both of us. But your wife, she turned it into a war zone, and you let her." Tina turned to him. "Are you going to let him do this?" James looked at her, then at me. "I think we should leave," he said quietly. Her mouth dropped open. "You're taking his side?" "No," he said, almost in a whisper. "I'm just tired." She stormed off upstairs again. James sat in silence. I picked up my tea and walked to the porch. The sun was setting. The sky was orange and soft. I could hear the birds chirping, the wind blowing through the trees. For the first time in months, I felt peace. But deep inside, I also felt a little sad. James was my brother. I didn't want to lose him. But sometimes people need to learn the hard way. And Tina, she was about to learn everything the hard way. The next morning was quiet. Too quiet. I woke up early like I always did, made a fresh cup of tea, sat on the porch. The wind felt cool on my face. The birds were singing like they always did. Everything around me looked the same. But inside the house, everything had changed. Tina didn't come downstairs that morning. Not a sound from her. No high heels, no shouting, no, he's still here. James came down, though. He sat across from me on the porch. He didn't say anything for a while, just held a cup of coffee and stared at the trees. Then he finally spoke. "You're serious about the 30 days?" I nodded. "I'm not doing this to hurt you," I said, "but I've lived with too much disrespect. I gave you both a roof, and in return, I got treated like garbage." James sighed. "I know, I should have stood up for you." "It's too late now," I said, "but it's not personal. It's just peace. I need my peace back." He nodded, and that was it. For the next few days, the house felt like a tense balloon waiting to pop. Tina barely came out of the bedroom. When she did, she didn't say a word to me, just rolled her eyes or slammed a door behind her. James started packing small things, his books, his shoes, his speakers. He didn't even argue anymore. I stayed quiet, calm, peaceful, just the way I like it. Then, 2 weeks before the move-out date, something strange happened. Tina cooked breakfast for me. I came down that morning and saw scrambled eggs, toast, sausages, all laid out neatly on the table. The smell was nice. Tina stood by the counter wearing a smile so fake I could see it crack. "Good morning, Anthony," she said sweetly. "I made you breakfast." I raised an eyebrow. "Why?" She laughed, nervous. "Oh, I wanted to apologize for everything. I've been really stressed lately, and I took it out on you." I looked at the eggs, then at her. "You're only doing this because you don't want to move out." She blinked fast. No, I mean, yes, we don't want to leave, but I really do feel bad. Please, Anthony, let's start over. I paused for a long time. Then I sat down and ate. The food was good, but I didn't say a word to her the whole time. After breakfast, she followed me to the living room. "So," she said, "does this mean you'll let us stay?" I stood up, wiped my hands on a napkin, and looked her straight in the eyes. "Tina," I said, "you tried to ruin me. You tried to make me look like a crazy old man. You called the police on me. In my own home." She opened her mouth to speak. I raised a hand. "No, you don't get to stay just because you cooked some eggs. You should have respected me from the beginning." She started to cry. Fake tears. Big, loud ones. "Please, I'm sorry. I was just trying to make our life better." I stepped back. "Then go make your life better somewhere else." She fell to her knees right there in the living room. "Please don't do this. I don't want to live in some tiny apartment. I can't go back to a cheap life." Her voice cracked like a breaking plate. I didn't feel sorry, not even a little, because I had spent months being quiet, respectful, and kind. And she had spent those months trying to crush me. She stood up and ran upstairs. I heard the door slam. 2 weeks later, moving day came. James hired a moving van. Tina didn't speak to me once. She wore sunglasses, even though it wasn't sunny. Her face was stiff. Her pride had been broken. James came over as the last box was loaded. He looked tired, older somehow. "Thanks for everything, bro," he said softly. "I really mean that." I nodded. "I hope things work out for you, James. I really do." He looked like he wanted to hug me, but he didn't. He walked out the door and didn't look back. Tina followed behind him, carrying a box of her designer shoes. As she stepped off the porch, I said one final thing. "Good luck, Tina. I hope your next landlord doesn't drink tea." She froze, then kept walking. I stood on the porch as the van pulled away. The wind blew gently. A bird landed on the fence. My tea was warm in my hand, and I smiled because for the first time in months, my house was quiet again. No shouting, no lies, no fake smiles, just peace. And in the silence, I felt something stronger than revenge. I felt free. Did you enjoy this story? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to let me know where you are watching from.